two issues that have come up in discussions about what we might see in this upcoming 2018 legislative session have to do with water quality and addressing the state opioid epidemic. Your stance when it comes to water quality funding and how we should move forward on that front?
Most of the proposals we've seen in the past are really not aggressive or ambitious enough to make any long-term beneficial improvements to our water quality, clean up both our drinking water and surface waters for recreational purposes. And none of the proposals have had significant enough funding to achieve that. And so we continue to be interested as House Democrats and personally as ranking member of the Environmental Protection Committee to make sure that anything we sign on to or support makes meaningful commitment and progress on those two fronts.
What have the discussions been in terms of tax reform in the state, and what of concerns about the impact that could potentially have on the state budget at a time when you're dealing with budget shortfalls?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is concern. We can't keep increasing services and not increase taxes. I mean, really, that's the lay of the law. That's how the state pays for the services that we provide the citizens of Iowa. So, those committees, Ways and Means, who deals with the tax side of things, will weigh all of the options. I don't serve on that committee personally, so I'll wait to see what they have to come out with and what they have to say. Tax credits have always kind of been scrutinized, but when you're in a district like Dubuque, we were fighting to keep in the historic tax credits in the federal bill, and that's important to growth here in Iowa. So there's going to be a lot of give and take. We'll see what it comes out to be, but those tax credits will certainly be discussed.
And why pursue tax reform when the state is facing some budget shortfalls and fiscal challenges, and especially considering there seems to be movement on the federal level in that regard?
Yeah, well, I go back to historic measures. Whenever you cut taxes, the economy grows. And tax revenues actually grow when you cut taxes because you end up with more taxpayers and business being stimulated. So when you look at history, both Democrats and Republicans have seen major public revenues or government revenues increase when you cut taxes.
Is there particular legislation you plan on introducing to address some of those issues, particularly when you're talking about trying to improve job training, education, boost wages?
Mm-hmm. I think that when you assemble a budget, a budget really does reflect your priorities. Joe Biden used to say, don't tell me what you believe in, show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you believe in. So if you say you believe that educating our children and making sure adults have have the skills they need to acquire a better paying job, which in turn stimulates an economy, then you put your resources and invest in your people by making sure they are well educated. So from my standpoint, the number one spending priority for the state should be investing in educating its people. I will be introducing some bills, or at least one bill for sure, that will try to address some of the problems that we have seen very vulnerable Iowans experience since Governor Reynolds and former Governor Branstad privatized the Medicaid system. It is a publicly managed system, or was a publicly managed health system, that was designed to provide health services to Iowans who would have a very difficult time getting that insurance because they now need nursing care, or they were born with a disability, or they acquired a brain injury in their lifetime, or an Alzheimer's, or whatever it might be, and now need additional help that private insurance doesn't pay for. And so the government designed those systems 50 years ago to address that unmet need. When we privatized that system in the state, our costs went from about 5% to manage the system to 12%. So the managed care companies, these out-of-state for-profit insurance companies, are pulling about 7% out of a system that never had enough money in it, but now they're pulling that 7% out to make sure that they turn a profit. It's that and or cutting services. So from the volume of phone calls and emails and tears that I have seen shed, this is an issue that we have to address in the next session. So a bill I'm going to introduce is to carve out from under the for-profit managed care companies, what we call long-term services and supports, LTSS, and make sure that it goes back to being publicly managed by the Department of Human Services, so that more funds are actually available to provide the services these very vulnerable Iowans need.